Yo, what's up everybody? Welcome back to Hustlers. I'm your host, Loss. We've got Luke on today. Roll that intro, baby.
I'm about to blow. I gotta stay on my hustle, you know that I'm grinding for sure. I came up right from the bottom, now they see me chasing my goals. Now they see me on the go, yeah. Now they see me on the road. It's time to hustle, yeah, it's time to grow. I'ma shoot for the stars and we aim for the gold.
Hey, bro.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks for jumping on.
Privilege, no worries.
Where'd you come in from today?
I'm down in Britomart, so just down the road, mate.
Not too
nice
far?
And easy. Nah, nice and easy.
Where's your, you got a new office, eh?
We do. We're about to go into Grays Ave, which is sort of city fringe-ish.
Yeah.
So we've done 4 years without an office.
Man.
So worked from home for 4 years. Yeah.
It must be exciting.
Yeah, man. It's interesting, because like when COVID hit, everyone was kind of transitioning to how do you work from home and stuff.
Yeah.
But we were, we've been doing it for so long that it was just normal. So it's interesting, like even just sitting upstairs before coming on here, like looking at everyone working together and stuff. I'm like, man, it's so foreign to me now because I've kind of isolated myself a little bit. So it's going to be interesting to find out how to be as productive and efficient with an office and then getting a commute and all that sort of stuff again.
Do you have kids?
No, I don't.
Nah. Partner?
Yeah.
Yes. Do you find like working from home, like the lines sort of get a bit blurry at times? Like
definitely, mate. Like especially when you love what you do, because like I could work all day. Trying to be like, right, just because the laptop's there doesn't mean I need to jump on it. And I'm not the best at it, to be fair. So
I know what you mean.
It's a tricky one.
Yeah. But I'll make a quick shout out to our sponsor, Bout Fitness, in the Mount. You ever heard of them?
Nah, but I'm going down there in a few weeks, so I have to
take you for a whirl, bro. Let me know, actually. It's just like a hit gym, bro. It's just like 11 stations and you go around 3 minutes on each.
Wow.
Good workout, bro. You're in 40 minutes and you're out and you're blowing big time.
Nice. Yeah.
But you go in, you mention Hustlers at the desk, you get a $0 joining fee and your first week free. So why not try it out? As well.
Go. It's important to stay fit too. So
100%.
Great sponsor.
And you obviously would place a bit of emphasis on it, eh? Keep your head clear.
Yeah, man, for sure. One of the things that I did actually is I got into saunaing probably like 2 years ago.
Oh, right.
And I'll probably say like I'm addicted to it now, just about. To the point where when getting an apartment, has to be close to a sauna. I basically live above the Les Mills and just about every day.
In there.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll do like a bit of mahi in the old sauna, just reply to a few emails and stuff. But I didn't used to. That was kind of my like meditational type chill out Luke time thinking, but I get so creative in there and sometimes I'll write, I might just bash content, reply to emails. It's interesting, like get in different states.
That's interesting. What you take your computer in there?
No, just my phone. Just my phone, not the laptop, but you can blow them up. The old iPhone ends up kicking back.
I was just going to say that. It must get a bit hot in there. But tell us a bit about yourself, like your background and what you do.
So I'm a Dannyvuk boy originally, and then sort of made my way up the country. I used to catch the bus hour every day to school over to Palmy Boys. Went to Palmy Boys. So I was like big dog in Dannyvuk. Got over to Palmy, started playing soccer there. They're like, all right, you need to juggle this ball 100 times to make this team. I'm like, what do you mean juggle the ball? I'm like, shit, I don't know how to do that. And so it was a bit of a wake-up call of like, oh, wow, it's a bigger world out there as such, coming from a small town. And studied, went through schooling there, ended up in Taranaki, and then had an accounting job there, and then just kind of knew that I was in a small town called Hauda, and I was like, I'm probably, I don't think I was meant to end up here. And one day, packed it all up and came up to Auckland and started in an accounting firm up here and was chipping away there and just knew, I was like, man, this is I've got more to give than this. And I had a house back down in Taranaki and I was thinking I might sell that, take the money, go to the UK and do the classic. That's what most accountants and people do. It's like, all right, go over there, get paid better. And then my house didn't sell, and so I went through America on a giant bender, to be fair, and then to the Rio Olympics, and so that was sort of 7 weeks. My house didn't sell, and I was like, okay, I'm just I'll come back and fight it out at this accounting firm, maybe it's just meant to be. And then sat back down, I was just like, I can't, how long can I do this? And I was just watching too many YouTube motivational videos and stuff. And one day I was on the plane down to Palmerston North to see Mum and my stepdad, and sitting next to a guy, and he was asking me about claiming back your donation tax credits for your school. So if you pay your kids' school fees, there's usually a donation portion in that. You can claim a third of that back. And most people don't claim it. So there's like $1 billion of unclaimed donations in New Zealand. Yeah, and it's like the easiest, when you're an accountant, it's like the easiest part of taxes. And he's like, mate, it's so hard. And I'm like, it's not that hard. And he's like, it is. And so kind of got me thinking, and I was researching it, and I went back to my now business partner who I was working with, and I said, mate, parents are struggling to claim their school donations back. We should build like a platform where people can come on and fill out their details, get their receipts, and we'll file their tax returns, and we'll clip the ticket for sort of 15%. And we just thought this thing was just going to go like through the roof. But turns out that like parents, they didn't, it's not that that it was too hard, they just didn't know they could do it. So we were doing education and social media content and stuff, and they were like, oh sweet.
And they knew how to do it, and then they just did it.
Yeah, often went and did it on their own. So we're kind of left with like the my food bag type parents who are like, okay, this will save me time, you guys just do it.
Yeah.
So it was very evident like this isn't going to be a scalable, like long lasting business. And the IRD sort of said, hey look, we're probably, if it is successful, we're going to put some money into making our process better as well. And so my now business partner and I, we were like, what are we going to do next? And so that's one of our things we always talk about with Next Advisory is hashtag what's next. So it's always asking business owners. So for us it was, okay, what do we want to do? And so we basically started with a blank canvas, jumped in a plane, went to Fiji, had a few Fiji golds, sat down for the week, and we're like, right, what sort of accounting business and advisory business do we want to build out? So that's what we did, coming up 4 years ago now. So we're sort of coming into year 5. So we started with no clients, and now have close to about 100 clients.
Oh my God.
So it's good fun, and still growing, and do a lot of accounting, but more sort of like business planning, quarterly coaching, so keeping people accountable. It's like having a PT in the gym, but just for your business. So we've got some cool clients doing some awesome things, and just giving them a kick up the arse every now and then. And
that's interesting, man. I didn't realise that you guys did, until I obviously talked to Jade. I didn't even realise you did accounting, but that's probably one of the biggest parts of your business. So, a big part anyway.
So it's it's not sexy accounting. So, but I could see there's a huge gap in the market because it's hard to create content, for instance, around accounting. But I'd been pretty deep into social media by the time we kicked that off, and I learned heaps of stuff through School Rebates, which was the donation platform, and thought, I reckon we can probably go out there and win some work through social media. So we've probably spent over, I think now spent over like $100,000 on social media ads, and and like a lot of accountants and stuff, they laughed at us because they were like, you boys shouldn't be doing this. Business owners aren't on social media. You boys are wasting your money here. And now they're kind of like downloading our shit and like, hey, why are you doing that? What's that? So it's been fun. It's been fun to sort of watch it unfold. And then my passion project or hobby sort of on the side, we've always been into horse racing, me and some mates. And so one of the boys, we were going to the races on the weekend, and he set up a Facebook group before there was Facebook chat and stuff, so that we could type in there and be like, right, this is what I'm backing, this is my, this is what I think will be winning tomorrow. And so that was 5 of us in a Facebook group, and that's just gone past 20,000 people now. So that was 10 years ago that he kicked that off. And so along the way, like, it's allowed me to play with social media and like understand some things better, and built out a bit of an Instagram following, and we have an event in January called the Karaka Million, which is a big horse racing event, and it was the one that me and my mates would always go to. And once I moved to Auckland from Taranaki, it was like, should head along and see if we can get more people here. And so we sort of called on the community and was like, right, who wants to come? And started with 75 people 4 years ago, I think. In the January, and then we just had our last event in January just gone. We had 850 people in the room. So 850 in the room, which was maxed out. Like, I think we sold it out, so it was pretty cool. I thought we could probably squeeze a few more in, but there's some sort of fire regulations or something like that. And then what we do as well is you can chuck in $100 or whatever you want, basically, and run like a big betting syndicate. So in the first year, I just put together this Google form so people could fill it out, pay their money in, and we ended up with $58,000 in my bank account. and turned it into 136k.
Jesus, man.
Yeah, so that kind of kicked that off, and I think just the first year was like, we've never really repeated the success of the first year on the punt, but had like some great times. And so now there's about 1,300 people usually kick some money in, and we had 250 grand to play with. So it's turned into a bit of a beast.
How'd you come up with, like, man, that's crazy how you getting everyone's money together and you're just like fucking...
It is, man, because like, there's a lot of trust there. People, cause
for sure.
After the first year, people are like, mate, you've got 136 grand everyone's cash. You should just boost it to Aussie, like jokingly. I'm like, mate, like, that ain't going to go that far, and that's not what I'm about. But
you also must have had to have a good track record for people to be like, oh fuck, I'm going to back this guy.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think like, the accounting side of things as well. Like people put a bit of trust and whatnot in that, and like, I'm pretty. I'm pretty bound by some pretty strict rules from being a chartered accountant as well. So like, if I get in any sort of trouble, I have to let them know. And so you get not only disciplined by the normal laws that we'll all have to adhere to, but they have their own set of rules. So you can lose your chartered accountancy. So I have to be like very careful what things I do and don't do. And what's been really hard with the whole boys get paid stuff is that because it's gambling, like, it's sort of frowned upon a little bit in New Zealand, but the law is so outdated and old, and there's no one really knows about it, because you wouldn't encourage your children to grow up and study like gambling law because there's no jobs. So when you do start like dicing with the law, you get calls from the Department of Internal Affairs, and you don't even know that exists. And then you're like, all of a sudden, man, I'm on a plane like reading a gambling book, like the law like is like this. Oh my god! Going like, what am I doing with my life? Like, why do I need to know this stuff? So it's been a pretty crazy journey with it all.
But we're going to dive into that a little bit later. But I want to start with this your business and stuff. I just find it really interesting that you've taken away that traditional way, a method of accounting and stuff. I've talked to people about, and I'm actually sort of seeing a bit of a change in it now, is the real estate. And it's always been very traditional, and I now see people kind of changing it up, and it's like, fuck, real estate's such an opportunity to be quite new with social media and make it real cool. Housing's cool, and I think that's cool that you've done that with your business. In terms of like, if I was a client and I came to you, to your business for help, what sort of services do you do? Like, how would you help me grow and things like that?
So usually, like right from the start, so one of our main hacks has been always trying to figure out what your client's goals are. Because if they can get clear on those and you can help them get there and get there faster, like they'll basically pay whatever. So that's been like a little bit of a big realization for me, is just trying to understand what people are actually trying to achieve. And I had a call this morning with a prospective client, and basically he was like, mate, we're just happy drifting, we're making good money, we just want to improve our systems and stuff, we don't really have a vision, that's not our thing. And I was like, mate, I'm going to be honest, like, you won't be a fit for our, because all of our clients are like going places, are aspirational, they're trying to grow, they're trying to be better people, they're trying to do better things in their communities, for their families, improve their financial situation and stuff. So we just work like a lot closer with our clients. We don't want heaps of clients, we just want like good people doing good things, and then introduce them to the right people to help them grow and challenge them. And the big thing for most business owners is you're like so stuck in doing what you're doing that you don't really get like out and above it to look down and be like, hey, why am I doing that? And one of the cool things, like especially working with younger business owners, and I'm still pretty young myself, but what's real evident is they stay the same person they were on day one, and they have to learn how to stop being that person, because they might get to year 5 and make like a profit every year and actually have a successful business, and they're like, oh, I'm still small, like, oh, I'm just this young girl from this town, and I don't really know about that stuff, and they like almost like talk themselves out of success. So a lot of the work we end up doing is like around mindset and actually where do you want to go, and then what things are you missing that you're going to need to actually be able to get there, so that when you get there you're not like, I got here too quickly, and then you shit the bed.
So that's like a lot of self-development then, just growing yourself. And that's interesting. What about like tax wise, like obviously being an accountant, there's a lot of little things like you just mentioned. Is there other little kind of tricks, or I guess things that people should know or don't know? Well,
I guess for people like listening to this, if you're thinking about setting up a side hustle, for instance, or a business, like, you got a massive unfair advantage to when you're in employment and that heaps of your expenses are tax deductible expenses. So say like this equipment, for instance, and that notebook, for instance, that becomes a tax deductible expense because you need that in order to be able to do your business and to generate revenue. So usually, like loosely, if you can tie like an expense with an ability to derive income, then it could be tax deductible. So to paint the picture, say you have a full-time job and you set up a podcast because it's just a bit of fun for you. Well, you pay, so you get your salary and then you've paid tax on your salary, you'd be paying for all your equipment and that after tax income, your money, you'd be paying for it out of that. If you were, starting a podcast and trying to get some sponsors on board to generate some revenue and you were using it to grow, your accounting business, like Phil and I, for instance, and all of a sudden my roadcaster becomes a tax deductible expense, my headsets, all of that stuff. So say we have $100 of sales, but then we had $50 worth of expenses for podcasting equipment, then our profit's $50, so we're only paying tax on the $50. So like a lot of younger people don't understand like that advantage, and that's where now with side hustles and the internet, it's so easy to kind of be able to generate up some form of income. Well, not easy, but it's doable to then allow you to claim some of those expenses for everyday things that you'd have in your life as well.
Does there need to be a balance with it, like around say like your net profit comes out at the end and it's at a negative or something because you're putting everything under an expense in the business? Does there need to be a balance, or does that not really matter, you think? Or
I mean, like, you don't want to be losing money anyway, ideally, but like, sometimes businesses at the start they will, and then you'll carry those losses forward over time. But you can't really take the piss with your expenses and just start whacking through your home groceries and stuff like that. But so that's the beauty, that's the beauty of having a good accountant that can help you understand some of that stuff and make sure you're claiming all the things you should be.
How important is having a good, like, because I've heard pretty much from every person I look up to in business, almost every single one says you need a good accountant. Straight away. I don't know if you know Ben Francis, the guy that runs Gymshark. Have you seen that? He's massive on it, He's like, he's a bloody beast, man. Like, I love watching his stuff. But
a lot of people, they get in trouble with their money or taxes, and then they're like, oh, I probably should have had someone on my side. And like a lot of accountants, how they've made money over time is actually just doing like the minimal, but doing heaps of it, and not actually trying to stop and be like, hey, why are you doing this? We've just taken on some clients last week who, now that I've got all their financial information, excuse me, like the first conversation, we're having a big session at the end of this month, sitting down for 4 hours, and I'm just outright going to tell them, like, you're not making enough money. Like, this isn't working. What's going on here, basically, because they're working for a whole year and then they're dropping out like a small profit. And sometimes you have to have those realistic conversations of like, do you have a plan to make this work or be something, or like what is this for you? Because if you're taking all this risk and chewing in 60 hours a week and stuff, but then taking away like $8,000 for the year, you're like, what's missing here? What are we doing wrong? So it's important, I think, to just have people challenging you and then actually making sure that you're not doing things the wrong way, or claiming some of the things that you can be, and also staying on top of your tax. What
would be your main tips for someone like wanting to start a business straight away? Like, what would you tell them, your top 3 things, I guess?
So, right, top 3. One, I would say like why. So like get real clear on like why you want to do it, because I think a lot of people, they just want to escape their job and they think, I'm going to start a business to escape that, but then you might get deeper into it and realize that you don't actually want to do it. 2, you have to understand that like it's going to be a grind, and you just have to like suck it up and get stuck in. And the 3rd thing, that's what I've been real big on lately with people ringing me asking the same sort of thing, is that we forget how long it took us to get to our point in our career. So say we have a uni degree, 5 years of work experience, there's 5 pay rises across that, we're getting paid 60, 70 grand. And then you think, I'm going to start a business. Well, unless it makes 70 grand, like, I'm not going to do it. And you're like, well, hang on, it took you 8 years, 3 years at uni and 5 years of work experience to get 70k. Like, imagine what your life could look like if you put 7 years into a business. And there's like a massive light bulb for some people. They're like, oh wow, I got to stop looking at this as like a 1 year project and look at it as like a 7 year project.
That's There's a good way of looking at it, I think, and I think definitely what people think is broadly getting into business, you're going to make a bunch of money, and like it just doesn't work like that. Not straight away anyway.
Like probably like bonus bit would just be you got to surround yourself with good people.
Good mentors, you reckon is important?
Yeah, man, and just know who you are. So as an example, like I look back at my family and I got 2 sets of parents effectively because my parents separated. Neither of them, like, they don't get business. Then my dad and then his wife, like, they're all real supportive of me, but then they haven't done business. And then my sister's just like, nah, leave me out of that, not interested in that. Same with my brother. And then my grandparents, and I'm like, far out. Like I've decided to like break the cycle almost, or get into business. And then, but you can't, it's hard to then go and have convos with them and be like, hey, I'm stuck with this, what should I do? Because they're gonna have ideas and opinions, but they might not necessarily actually have like the experience. So you've got to go dig out those people that have been through things before and be like, hey, this is what I'm struggling with, or this is my blind spot. What do you think I could do here?
How do you think an average sort of person does that? Do they just reach out, or you go on social media?
Yeah, man. LinkedIn, mate.
Bro, everyone talks about LinkedIn so like highly.
Yeah, do you use it?
I do, but not enough, I don't think.
I think because I'm a bit older, so I'm like, might be in that category. Like when TikTok came out and started blowing up, I was like, I'm like, man, I don't want to clock another platform. Like I think I was fatigued, bro. Facebook groups, Facebook pages across like multiple pages, and Instagram and stuff, and then building our email list. And I'm like, oh man, I know I need to be in this, but I'm just like, I just don't know if I've got the energy to do it. And then LinkedIn, I've been punching content on there for a long time, number of years now, and writing articles and just posting thoughts and stuff. But it's unfair, bro. It gives you like a direct inbox to anyone in this country that's successful effectively, and if you keep bashing them, and the thing that I found is like successful people, they always want to help other people that are hungry. And so you can just bang, drop them a bit of audio, just stand out in a different way. And just I got my business partner loves Rob Fife, who is the CEO of Air New Zealand.
Oh, right, yeah.
And I was like, mate, like, stop going on about him. I'm like, I'm going to find him and I'm going to jackass up like a coffee or something. And I bumped into him coming out of Les Mills, and I was like in a rush for this meeting, and I bumped into the student. I was like, oh, sorry, mate. And then keep going. I was like, oh, shit. Like my brain kicked in. I was like, that's Rob Fife. And I'm like, sack up. Like, turn around. I was like, oh, Rob. And he like turns around like, yeah. I'm like, oh, mate, gave him the sales pitch. My business partner loves you. And he's like, okay, mate, message me on LinkedIn, and then I'll sort it out with my PA. So I dropped them the message, then, I emailed, no reply to the email, and then he'd replied to the message, so I knew it was legit. Like he wasn't oh, he's a stalker again. Second email, he copies in his PA and was like, hey, find a time for Luke and his business partner, and sat down with him for about an hour and a half, hour 45, I think, in the end of it. Over
How was that?
Yeah, it was cool, man. Yeah, it was
What'd
cool.
What'd you talk about, like?
Just got his thoughts on like leadership and just things that he's seen. There's just like one of the biggest takeaways that I thought was awesome was he talks about the power of storytelling, and that's what we're all doing now, right? And like Gary Vee's big on it, for instance, like everything's a story, and how he would use stories from within Air New Zealand to level up everybody else. So there's a story where I think like a pilot was holding this lady's baby so that she could get all ready and get in the seat and stuff. And then she wrote a letter to say, like, thank you so much, like your pilot is, he could just be like, oh yeah, that's not my job, that's for the cabin crew to sort, but he was happy to hold my baby and get us all sorted. So use stories like that to then retell to the entire staff, so they're like, okay, like that's how I'm supposed to act.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and it's something that I was doing with like the BGP community, for instance. Whenever there was, like, one of our values is community, so whenever there is someone within the community like doing something for someone else, we try and take that and be like, hey, this is what community means. So one of the boys went and visited and took a guy who was really sick in a hospital, like a big hamper and stuff. They didn't even know each other. They just sort of heard that one guy was sick, and he's like, oh, I've seen his name in that Facebook group before, maybe I'll just turn up to the hospital. And so heaps of cool stuff like that. So it was cool to see like some of the things that I was doing, but just thinking like, oh, maybe this is just, something I've kind of grabbed onto somewhere. that, like one of the biggest businesses in New Zealand.
He's using it.
Yeah.
How you're obviously big on community. Like, how did you grow, or what do you think your key elements to growing your community is? You mentioned Gary Vee there. I'm a massive advocate of Gary Vee as well.
Yeah.
Are you big on him? Or?
Yeah, I had no idea who he was, bro. And I was starting to put like stuff on my Snapchat when I was starting in business, and I just wanted people to see like how hard it was in the early grinder school rebates. And for my mates that were like, oh mate, because I noticed that when you start a business, people are like, oh bro, you must be killing it, you've got your business, oh you can shout because you've got a business, and you're like, hang on, like what?
Right.
And so I was trying to show people how hard it was, and someone messaged me and was like, mate, you remind me of Gary Vee. And I was like, who's that? And then I searched him, and he's just like swearing his head off. I think it's the video of him in front of the dumpster, and he's just talking about trolls and stuff on social media, and it's just like just rips them out. It's one of my best Gary Vee videos. Sometimes I'll like reply, like send, if they've been a hater or whatever, I'll just like reply with that video and be like, you should watch this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, this guy's awesome. And then I don't know how many hours of his content I would have devoured now, but like a lot of the things that he taught, I have sort of used with BGP and whatnot. And it's been, I got to meet him when he was speaking in an event, so had a BGP hat, and I was just like, mate, we won a media award in the horse racing space, so for all the digital content and stuff we've been doing. And I think the traditionalists in horse racing were like, the fuck, it's a Facebook group, this is not a media company, they shouldn't be winning this isn't media. And we were like, we should have won this 3 years ago. And so I said that to Gary Vee when I met him really, briefly over 30 seconds. It's just like, mate, I've like followed the process of what you suggest. And
did you get a photo with him?
Yeah.
Send me that photo, I want to chuck that up.
I'll dig it out.
Bro, that's mean.
But back to your question, like positivity is something we're massive on, like no dickheads, like no, because it's like, gambling for instance, or tipping a horse and stuff, everyone has an opinion, and if you get it wrong, we're like, this isn't a place to come back and be like, oh, you don't know anything, you idiot. Like, if you're not prepared to lose, then don't back it. So don't bring a negativity in here, like you're gone.
Yeah, that's good. What did you see that sign when you just came in?
Yeah, love that. Yeah.
What's like the craziest story or stories that you've had with BGP at the moment? Like, you would have had some big ones or something. I think I've seen you guys on the news a couple of times.
Yeah. In terms of big wins, we were doing this punters club over like 8 weeks in the spring a couple of years ago, and we got down to the last 20 grand, and we'd sort of started with about 75, and I found this horse that was running on a Wednesday, and I was like, I'm pretty sure this thing should definitely place, and the tab were offering back to fourth, so if it ran in the top 4 you got paid, and so you double your money. So I'm like, should we lump the 20 grand on? And I was like, well, like we might as well have a go here. Like I was like, if it's good enough to run top 4, like, maybe we should just have a crack at it to win. So we whacked 10 grand each way on this horse, paying 5s and 2s. And it ended up like closing up a lot shorter. So that's more money's going on it, $3 something. And it got up and won. And the commentator, everyone was in on it because I posted into the Facebook group and had 600 likes or something. I was like, bro, look at this dude. He's just put 10 grand each way on this horse, but it was, everyone's money. Everyone's just like, mean bet, loving this. And so everyone was kind of like stopping to watch it. The commentators knew it was happening. The jockey knew that we had 10 grand. Everyone was kind of in on it as such. And so, the commentator was like, true enough wins and the boys get paid. And so we've sort of clipped that out as a bit of
that is out the
piece of content. And then the jockey's getting interviewed, and he's like, Kemeys will be, he would have to shout me dinner after that ride or something.
That's cool.
It's just cool, bro. Like those kind of moments, like it brings everyone like back together and excited and stuff. And probably my favorite BGP story is we decided we were going to try and stream for the whole day from the pub and just get on the beers and just talk about racing, and like have the racing in the background at a pub. People could just come in, have a beer if they wanted, stay for as long as they wanted. And anyway, we're live and we're talking, like we just had an iPad set up, it was that amateur, and 3 of us yarning, and this older dude rolls in and just like stands there at the table, and he's like, hi Luke, and I'm like, oh hey mate, I'm like we're live, and he's just like, yeah, okay, like he had no idea what I was talking about, like we're live. And he's like, oh, how are you getting on? And I'm like, mate, can we do this in a couple of minutes? Like we're live on Facebook here. And he's like, oh, okay. So it like goes off, gets a beer, and he'd read about BGP in the paper, and he used to go to the races with his best mate, and his best mate died. And he's like, oh, like I thought maybe I could start coming to the races with you boys. And we're like, holy fuck, like, yeah, mate, no worries. So we call him BGP Granddad. And yeah, and he just like, he's come to like the golf day, cooks the barbecue at the golf day, like a couple of years in a row. Cool. And came over to Melbourne for a trip with us. Yeah, he's just kind of like, everyone's kind of adopted him as like the granddad of the group.
I think that's a bit of a testament to you and who you are, that your, you know, coolest story to do with BGP is something like community based. I think that's cool.
Yeah, no, it was cool, man. So I love telling that story because I think people then realise, it's not just about beers and bets, you know, sort of thing. Like there is more to it as well.
How'd you get into horse racing? Like,
I think as well why that story is like big for me is that both my granddads were into horse racing, and I think that's where I like picked it up subliminally, maybe, you know, with them having trackside on and stuff. But it definitely wasn't like in the family or anything like that. It was just, you know, we turned 18, you know, you start thinking you're invincible, get a few beers, a betting account, and you're like, wow, you know, you can make some money doing this. And then you realise like, oh, actually that's really hard.
Bro, you made a bit of a post on your Next Advisory recently. I was just keen for you to sort of run through it. That $100,000, if you're earning $100,000, you remember that one?
Oh yeah,
quite recently.
Yeah.
Just like if it's enough to live and how much, and how happy you are with it after tax and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. You just want to break it down. So if you're on $100,000 a year, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I forgot to mention at the start. So I have like one of the other things I'm passionate about is financial literacy and just helping people learn more about money. So I've got a project called Keep the Change. Plug for that, keepthechange.co.nz. So it's just like in lockdown, started writing a Friday email for people to learn and just think about money differently and learn something through some of the things that I've, I guess, unfairly learnt through being a chartered accountant.
That's cool.
Yeah, because you know it's all good to work with business owners all the time, but then like if we keep leaving just the everyday people behind, I'm like, well, how are we actually going to close the gap or empower people to learn more?
There's a free email to sign up to. Bro, I'm on that.
So just goes out every Friday, and so there's like 65 weeks now, and I do like a audio version of it as well. But anyway, what I did is 2 weeks, I did the average income in New Zealand at that time when I wrote it was about 52 grand. So what I did is I stripped off like the tax, stripped off KiwiSaver to show people how much they have, you know, after tax, and then I got people thinking about, okay, you've got to live somewhere, you've got to eat, here's all your expenses, and just to get people thinking like, actually, is that enough money? And then the next week I did, what does $100,000 look like? Because that's a 1 in 9 income, I think, in New Zealand. Yeah, so 1 in 9 people earn over 100 grand.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So then just showing people like, okay, what you end up left with, because why I did that is when I was becoming like sort of moving my way up through the accounting ranks, I thought, okay, if I can just get to 100 grand income in New Zealand by 30, like I've clocked it, like I've nailed life here. But I didn't realize that as you earn more, you just keep spending more, like you find other things, and you're like, yo, I got the same amount of money when I get paid 80k as when I get paid at like 50k. What's happening here? And so your life kind of creeps with it. And so I just trying to get some people to realize like, okay, if they do want to make quite a bit of money, if that's what drives them, then that's okay. But you know, what's the vehicle you're going to get in to help you get there? And the sooner that you realize that and go, okay, like, am I being honest about how much money I can actually make in this job or in this industry? Then you get to either put the foot down or be like, I need to get out of this one and I need to get into a different vehicle. And I think that's why so many younger people now gravitate towards real estate, because they're like, oh, holy shit,
money fast.
Which you got to be careful of that too, because you know, things that come quick end up pretty dangerous as well.
Exactly. Well, that's real estate's pretty hit and miss, like even the fact that you're not on a salary or you're not on anything, I guess that just is very relatable to running your own business. What's some good businesses or talented businesses business that you think you've worked with recently that you're like, oh, new on the game but really killing it, or do well?
We got a wicked client called Moustache, and they do the cookies, so Moustache cookies. And it's a girl called Deanna, well, a lady, and she'd probably call herself a girl. She just had a vision. She just had on her bucket list. She was like, one day I want to have a cookie store. And now she's got 3 stores, an online store, and hires over 35 people.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, that's the power, you know, of a vision. And that's why I think we need so many more people to actually sit down and be like, what the fuck do I want from my life? And then have a crack at going after it. because for her that's the idea and the vision. That's how it all started, and now she's employing tens of people in New Zealand. So we always try and support our clients where we can. So like last week, on the weekend, sent a bunch of flowers. We've got a client called Wild Poppies, one of the biggest forests in New Zealand. So use them for instance, and just a lot of them are using social media well. And Deanna from Moustache, for instance, she's like front to camera, taking people through the journey the whole time, and like real vocal on just things that are important to her. Doesn't care if people don't really resonate with that. She's just like, well, this is my truth, if it's going to lose me some sales, it is what it is. So you got to respect that.
What's your opinion on, because I'm massive on it as well, is that putting your face to your brand, and what's your opinion on it? Do you teach that a lot with your clients, like their social media strategy, I guess?
Especially like it kind of depends who wants to be the brand. Like some people just don't have it in them, and so I don't think it's a good idea for those people. So like Gary Vee says, you pick the way that you communicate and be good at that, and not try and force yourself to be something you're not. But people love doing business with people, and so that's why I think it's so important to do. And we've got this wicked ability through social media now to actually be able to show people we're genuine, who we are, what we're up to, and people seem to they resonate with that now, and people sit there for hours watching other people's stories. So it obviously works.
For sure. And like storytelling, the art of storytelling, like it just goes way back, all our ancestors were telling stories. I mean, I talked about this last week. Like you even think back to like when we were little kids, like our parents read us books and things. Like we just get really attached to stories as humans, I think. And it's almost it's almost like it's not talked about enough, that how powerful creating your own little story is for people to kind of like feel a part of, because it's almost like they feel more inclined to support you in that way once they feel part of your journey.
Definitely. If you can tell people, like articulate well, like what you're trying to achieve, then I think people are keen to get in behind that as well, because they're like, oh, I can see what this dude or this girl's doing here, like that's mean. And then they tell your story for you to other people. And it's definitely an art, you're right. Like if you're not sort of comfortable, it's not your sort of field, you find other ways. Like he talks about writing, and if you're a writer, then use blogs or that sort of thing. Now, what about like you started a podcast too, So you've had that for a wee while? So Phil and I have done a Next Advisory podcast. We've done like 135 episodes, I think. And what we did, bro, is we decided, like, because it was working. Well, actually, we're kind of at the point where we're like, is this working? Is this a good use of our time? And I knew through doing social media for years now and just like understanding the slow burn of content, I'm like, mate, like to my business partner, I'm like, we need to put our foot down and just go 2 a day. And I was like, here's the 2 reasons why. One, other accountants will come to it and they'll be like, oh, holy shit, these boys have done. 2 a week, sorry. 2 a week. And I was like, other accountants will come to it and they'll be like, wow, these boys have done like this many, we need to be doing this. And I'm like, they'll suck at it and it'll distract them, so they'll underservice their clients, so like they're going to lose that way. Or secondly, they'll come and be like, oh, these boys have done like 80, what's the point of us starting now? And interestingly, like some of the other accountants that I get on really well with, they're like, oh mate, do you mind if we send like your podcast to our clients, because they don't want to do a podcast, but they're like, you explain that topic really well. And so I'm like, yeah mate. So it's funny like who's using it, but we've done all that, and then we did a lot of BGP content, and last year we got into a bit of live radio as well. So we're just live streaming the podcast, but we have our own app, and so you could go in there and tune into race previews and stuff like that.
You have your own app? Oh wow, for Boys Get Paid? Oh, I didn't know that.
It's about, I think, last time I saw it was sort of about 17,000 people have it on their phone. Well, we needed a better way to get all the information out there faster, when Facebook started throttling the the reach and stuff.
How'd you go about that? Like, how'd you go about it?
It's a scary process, bro. We put it out there and we're like, because often people were saying, oh, you guys should get an app, and so, but I had no idea where to start, never built an app. So we just put it out to the community, like, hey, think about building an app, does anyone know how the fuck that works, basically? And these dudes were like, hey, come in, we'll shout your beer, and we build some pretty grunty apps. We'll just tell you like what to look out for. And they are so giving with their time, and then Ben and I, my mate who's pretty like part of like the admin for BGP, we're just in there just like, this is what we love, this is what we want to do. And I think like our energy, they were just like, fuck, we didn't come here to suggest that we could build this. We just came here to tell you lads like what to keep an eye out on. But they were like, we kind of want to do this project for you now.
Oh, that's fucking cool.
And so they priced us up a quote, and I can't really say like how much it was because they did look after us, but it was nearly as much as like my whole salary for a year when I was back in my accounting job. And I'm like, fuck it, we're doing it. And Ben's like, bro, where are we going to get that amount of money from? I'm like, I don't fucking know, man, but like, we'll figure it out. And so literally, it was probably one of those times, man, where I'd watched heaps of content about just like committing and figuring it out as you go.
Yeah.
And it was just like, this feels like the biggest deep end I can jump into at the moment. Like, let's roll. And so, so I just said, yep, we can build it. And truth be told, man, we probably had like, a fifth, if we're lucky, of the money at that time when I said, yep, we can do this. So I said to them, hey, we want to do this, but can we space the payments out over 5 months? That was my first strategy, like my first thing. And they're like, yep. And I was like, boom, I got 5 months. I'm like, we good here. So I'm like, right, now I don't need to figure this out in 30 days. I need to figure it out in 5 months. So 5 months later, bro, I think we paid it off in 4 months. We didn't even need the whole 5 months. So yeah, got some funding, did like a bit of a raise through our community of people. We built like a supporters membership, and people could chip some cash in, and so it's mostly people that have been in the group for free for years, and we're like, if this means we're going to get an app, like, here you go.
Nice. And
so the money just started trickling in, and that's one of the things that I've had to learn. Like, I come from part of the Keep the Change project is like, I came from like probably like a scarcity mindset, like a small town kind of, 100 grand is like a huge amount of money, and all that sort of stuff. And so I've had to learn, like, that's just stuff that I've learned like falsely through some of my upbringing and just things that I was reading. Right, and so I've kind of had to swap some of that stuff out, but then actually like test myself and be like, commit to a 50 to 80, 100 grand app over time. It gives you a lot of confidence, bro, when you like do something and don't know how you're going to do it, and then you do it and you look back and you're like, holy shit,
risk is everything. And when it comes to business, and obviously you know that from punting too, but it's true, like, you have to take risks. Like, you can't just sort of float by and expect to kill it. Like, there's moments that come where you're just like, fuck, I've got to put everything on the line and hope that it works.
Just find a way. And the thing is, man, we usually find a way. Like, humans are unbelievable at finding a way to survive, and finding a way to get through things. It's like, it's what we're made to do. So sometimes you just have to have a crack. Bro,
you keep talking about consuming content and stuff. You must be massive on like self-development and that, like, and growing yourself as a person. I'm from this conversation, I'm just picturing you going home after this and just sitting there and consuming as much as you fucking possibly can.
Right, it's probably a bit unhealthy sometimes. Oh man, I don't know where it started. I've always kind of like had a desire to just be better and just like, I don't know, I just feel this like potential inside myself. And then I think YouTube came along and I started watching like, there's a dude called Greg Plitt, who he was massive in content in the gym space, like rigged to shit, like ridiculous, probably about 0.5% body fat.
Oh, Jesus.
And he was like the OG guy throwing out content, real inspirational, like just thinking real differently to how I used to think. And he got hit by a train bro recording a piece of content. And it's just always stuck with me, because I'm like, man, like, it would be so sick to see where he is now. Because this was before the whole gym thing was blowing up, and this dude was just throwing out content. But like, it wasn't, oh look, here's how to get a six-pack. It was like, here's how to get your shit together. And also, fitness is a massive part of that. So I think I was like loving watching him. And then once I got introduced to Gary Vee, but I used to watch all these kind of like motivational, like taking risk type videos that would jack you up and stuff. And then I'd just get into the gym and like listen to that instead of listening to music. And and I've just kind of continued on with it. So, and then the hack for people that I've learned is YouTube double speed, or even Spotify double speed. I found that a couple of years ago and was like, shit, my brain can still process information at that speed. I'm like, now I can get double the content.
Yeah, that's interesting, like just chucking it on the 1.5 or 2, and it just like you kind of rip through it twice as fast. Bro, we got quite a few questions here for you.
Sorry, mate. How are you for time?
12:52.
Oh, yeah. What time do we need to get out here?
8 minutes.
Okay, sweet.
What's it? You need to piss or something?
No. No, I was worried that I was just ranting too long.
No, you're all good, bro. You're all good. We'll just pick off the best ones here. So the first one is, what's your advice on hiring staff when I'm not sure if I can afford it yet or not?
Yeah, that's a tricky one. I think you really got to figure out like what things you don't want to be doing, and then kind of like what I said before with the app, try and figure out like, is there a way? And so if you can use a contractor to get a bit of time back, it's unbelievable when you get time back what you can then do with that time to then generate more money or become more productive. And then if you know you've got expenses, then you'll usually like you'll do something to ensure that you get the money to get that sorted.
No, I understand that. So kind of making it like an expense to run your business, sort of thing. What your biggest upcoming tip? But these guys aren't going to see it till Wednesday, so...
horse racing wise.
Do you have something after Wednesday? Off the top of your
head? There's a horse called Entrevier who's going to Australia and races for Tiakau. Hard to pronounce, Entrevier, I think it's called. What it is called. I couldn't spell it. Okay. But it's going to Australia. It races in orange colours for Tiakau. And it should win a race in Australia. It might take a couple of starts to do it, but
Entrevier.
Stick with that one. Keep an eye out.
Okay. There's actually a screenshot here, bro, that I was sent about you on your LinkedIn that I wanted to read out as well.
Wow. Here we go.
It's quite flattering, so
is it?
It's blowing smoke up your ass here.
Shit.
Luke calls himself an accountant. Luke is not an accountant. Luke is a value-adding machine who understands all things accounting. I have had the pleasure of working with Luke in various capacities. Luke is passionate about anything he sets his mind to. Luke is consistently focused on adding value to everyone he works with and for. I have no hesitation in recommending Luke both as an accountant and as a business advisor. If Luke agrees to work for you and he doesn't agree to work for everyone, as we just talked about, then be prepared for exponential growth. # 5 stars, # what's next,
wow.
# value bombs.
How good. Yeah, mate.
That's just pretty clear and evident.
Yeah.
What people think about you.
Yeah, it's cool, man. I think I'm just here to, try and make people's lives better, I think. I think that's what drives me at the heart of it. So if it's in business, if it's, just like this sort of stuff, if it's picking up the phone, talking to a mate, helping someone with their finances, it's fulfilling for me.
I think that's where you find the most happiness is when you find happiness in doing things for others rather than yourself.
Yeah,
it's always a different sort of...
Always say when you're feeling down, and I think I learned this one from Grant Cardone, go and help someone. So just help someone in the street. Like one thing that I still do now is if there's rubbish in the street, just pick it up, put it in the bin.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's like a reminder for me of never get too big to be above shit like that, because you had to do it at school, and if people are going to mess the streets up, well then who's going to tidy it up? So one piece of rubbish at a time.
Nice, bro. And the last one here was, at what point do you recommend a small business to get an accountant?
That's a ripper. Back to that just quickly on that picking the rubbish up, where it gets you in trouble though during the COVID, the first lockdown.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh man, there's Coke cans on the ground, picking up these Coke cans, and my missus is like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You can't pick up strangers' rubbish. Remember peak COVID, I was like, oh yeah, whoops. And then she's like, wash your hands.
What a world now, that we're living in at the moment, the fact that that's even a thing.
Yeah. When to get an accountant? Man, this is tricky. I got two takes on this. One, if you can afford it, when you can afford it, get a good one around you.
Yeah.
But I know what it's like to be hustling and scraping for every dollar at the start of business. I would say, learn the basics, and if you've got a mate who's an accountant, that will give you a point in the right direction to keep you 95% clean, then try and go until tax time before going, hey, I need to get this sorted.
Yeah.
Which is risky advice because you don't know what you don't know and what could go wrong. But an accountant that doesn't have your best interest at heart, it can just be a money suck early on. And often I'll say to people that are just starting from absolute scratch, nah, just use that money on marketing or use it on product.
Yeah. So finding the right accountant when you can afford it.
But only if you've got a mate who you can lean on and get some answers, because Google doesn't really work that well.
Yeah, true.
You interpret things wrong, basically.
Yeah. Uncle Google, eh?
Yeah.
Everyone reverts to him.
Yeah.
Bro, thank you for your time. I appreciate you coming in, man, and sharing your story, and taking out a bit of a time in your busy schedule. Because you're quite full on, eh? That's actually one question from me to finish. I want to ask how you structure your days and weeks and stuff around, a lot going on.
Yeah, I've had to get better at it, bro. Even, moving into that apartment, because I come from Harwood to Auckland. I used to go home at lunch, take me 3 minutes. I come to Auckland, first drive to work, 40 minutes. By Thursday, man, I'm crying. I'm a broken boy. I'm like, what the fuck is this place about? I got to pay to park to go to work, and it takes me 40 minutes to get there. This is wrong. And so I was like a broken man in Auckland, and I've learned that if the more I travel and the more I get in like frustrated, like that's one thing that can really mess with me, like my state. And so I try and be like real protective of my time now, and so that's part of getting an apartment close to the gym. I'm like, that's one place I go to just about every day, so then I should probably live closest to that. But structure, you've just got to figure out like what works for you, and then like play with it and see what brings more time back into your day. Like I just started ordering pre-made gym meals as well, because I'm just chewing too much time cooking, and I'm like, this is not a good use of my time.
Nice,
so just being willing to spend some money on things that'll bring your time back once you start realizing like how valuable you can be.
Nice.
But yeah, like clean routine, gym, like you got to look after yourself, put like positive stuff in your ears. Like I always say to people as an exercise, like go through your social media every now and then, bin 3 people that don't bring you up, and then replace it with 3 people that you actually are going to be inspired by. Because like we can drink and do bad shit and impact our bodies that way, but we can also do that to our heads by just consuming the wrong stuff. And you know, you say thanks for coming in, but at the same time, bro, it's like thanks for what you're doing, because you never know who you're going to inspire to be like, right, I'm going to go and change my life for the better. And that's the best thing about this sort of thing, is that eventually people come back to you and they're like, mate, I went and did this because of what you said, and you're like, holy fuck, that was just a seed that you planted for them, and then you know, and then you never know what they're going to go on to encourage other people to do as well.
Well, you actually stole the words out of my mouth there, because
I got your notes, mate.
Because honestly, like I do actually say this to my guests, like you don't realise the effect that you have on people. You probably do actually, because you have a podcast. So, but a lot of my guests, like, they don't really realise the effect that this may have on someone. You know, someone's just sitting there one day, they flick on your podcast and they hear you talking. And it inspires them to start something that they've always wanted to start, or it gives them that push. But yeah, I mean, you know, you just talked about how precious your time is, and you took out an hour or two today to come on, jump on and share your story, for nothing really in return other than being a good person to people. So I appreciate your time, bro. I appreciate you coming in. It was awesome to meet you. I think we're moving up to Auckland soon, so I'd be definitely keen to link up again at some point, or even come and have a look at that new Flash office.
Mate. Come in there. Sweet. Thanks,
awesome.
bro. Thanks for having me.